Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revel, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island. Let's Chat is a long-form conversational chat where I sit down with people from the world of punk rock, podcasting, and pop culture. Now, this intro might not sound wonderful. I'm recording it on my phone. My microphone literally died after trying to record this intro like 10 times, and I gave up. So I'll try to keep this brief. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest, John Andrew Myers. John is fucking awesome. This dude does everything. So by day, he works at the art department on television shows such as Robot Chicken, Community, a bunch of really cool shit. And then he also plays drums in Love Equals Death, which is a Fat Wreck Records band, which is fucking nuts. And then on top of all that, his passion project is Mere Mortals, the saga, which he is here to promote. And you can check everything out from meremortalsaga.com. You'll get all the information. You could please purchase his books if you can in person at a bookstore or pick, socially distance or whatever, or Amazon. You can find everything right there. This is a fun episode. So we had set up an interview. I had dropped the ball completely, and then the pandemic hit, and just one of those things I just completely dropped the ball, but felt really bad about. And we go into the episode, kind of unpack it, and it was cool to be to see our different perceptions of how that went down and how we were both wrong. But it was really nice of John and very forgiving of him to connect and come back on the show after I completely blew him off months ago. And now it's turned into a friend. We did the episode. We talked for 2 hours. We never met. We ended up just talking for 2 hours. Then I think one of us had to leave, or else we probably would have talked for another 7 hours. And then we just kept emailing back and forth, which then, as adult friendships are nowadays, it's just text me. And now we're friends. It's fucking awesome. That's what I love about doing the show. It's all the new connections you make and the people that you become friends with. So this is a really, really fun episode for me. Thank you, Ash, again, for connecting me now with Pat Edwards and John Andrew Myers, and some really cool people, I think, in the future coming up if I play my cards right, Ash. Wink, wink. Anyway, we're going to make this a little bit of a longer intro. I have some personal news. Short story, a couple weeks ago, I had to go see, I saw my doctor, and I got something's wrong with you. We don't know what. We need to run some tests. We're going to pull you out of work. So I'm happy to report, this is after Christmas, as of right now, knock on wood, to the best we know, it looks like I have a vitamin D deficiency, so that between that and 2020 and burnout, for those who don't know, I work at a psychiatric hospital, and it's been tough, but I have a great team, and I like the clients I work with a lot, so that's been really wonderful. But yeah, so I had to take some time out of work, so been feeling better, and that's been really great. So back to the show, though. This is our last episode of the year, where I have to take a second to talk about all the cool shit 2020 brought the Let's Chat. Started this year as just me, and now by the end of it, I'm happy to say that Let's Chat has actually turned into a media company that Bree Benjamin and I, my business partner, my friend, and then, oh God, this is also terrible. So it's been a great year for Let's Chat. Huge thank you to 2020. Huge thank you for Bree Benjamin, who came on and went from my producer for Let's Chat with Chris Revel and has turned into my business partner with Let's Chat Media, and more importantly, my friend. Thank you to Chris Ball for all of your hard work with Let's Chat with Chris Revel and launching Let's Chat Live. Let's Chat Live is our video chat show hosted by Bree and Ball, and sometimes me. We rotate the host. That's Tuesdays, 8:30 EST on Facebook and YouTube. And then on top of that, also huge shout out to Mike Schwartz, who was one of our producers we work with. He had to take a little step back, but he's coming back in the new year. Mike, can't wait. And a huge thanks to Will Forcer, who was one of our producers as well, who had to step away, but we could not have gotten up to where we have at this point without you. Thank you so much. And also, I was just made a couple appearances online, which I don't get to do a lot of, so I was really excited. I was recently a guest on Let's Rewatch, which is Ash's podcast I mentioned earlier, and Pat Edwards. We got to watch Air Force One. That was great. I got to be a returning guest on the Broken Brain podcast with Dwight Hurst. We did a recap of The Snowy Day, which is a really great animated Christmas series Amazon did of the children's book. And last but not least, huge thank you to Jay Vix, who runs the Facebook group New Jersey Pop Punk 1994 to 2002. I got to be on a thing called I was interviewed for a thing called Quarantunes, where Jay puts together your favorite musicians from that era. to play music from, their home or wherever they are. And it's been tons of fun. I've gone to a ton of them. He broke up the format this year. He invited me on. He broke up the format a little bit, invited some non-musicians on, and myself being one of them, to be interviewed. It was wonderful. And then I hung out afterwards online because I go to these things anyway. I love them. I ended up getting invited onto the call with Jay and the musicians afterwards, like the after party. And most notably, past guest and friend of the show, Heath Sarancino, who played in Midtown and Census Fail, was on the call. And also Fred Mascherino, who played in Taking Back Sunday and plays in The Color Fred. And and Mikey Erg, who plays on the Chris Gethard show in the Ergs. So I kind of lost my mind. I got to be out on the screen, get to hang out with everyone online for like a while. I got like 500 downloads extra, a huge bump from that. It was one of the coolest things. So maybe you saw that. That was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It felt like going to a show again. So thank you, Jay Vex. We're going to get you on the show hopefully for January. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Let's Chat Revel, at Let's Chat Podcast for all the things. And here's in 2021. We'll have a lot of really cool stuff to announce, so stay positive.
This podcast is a proud affiliate of the Let's Chat Podcast Network. Find out how you can become a part of this team by going to letschatpodcast.net and click on the Let's Chat Affiliates tab.
Man, I don't even know where to start. You're like such an anomaly to me. Like, actually, I'll start from the very beginning. Where are you from originally?
Longmont, Colorado.
See, okay, so Colorado, and then eventually LA.
Yeah, did some time in Denver, Broomfield technically, and then I did the LA move when I was 22, and then I've been out here ever since.
Yeah, like when we were going through like all the stuff you worked on, like. You were so funny. You're like, well, I've kind of done this, that. Oh, I also play in a punk band, and my friends are Emmy winners, and I work here, and here, and do some really weird stuff. And they're like,
it's awful.
A journeyman, if you will.
Yeah, that works.
I love that. And then your Mere Immortals is like your side hustle.
Oh yeah, like that's definitely my baby. Out of all the things, like that's the one, like that's where my head's at. Most of the time, and like all the other stuff in a lot of ways I feel was like stepping stones to get me to the point where I could actually do Mere Mortals. Just this thing that I'd had in my head forever, and then it was like, okay, do I have the resources and the know-how now to like actually do it?
So what's your I'm just so curious. So you're 22. You moved to LA. What's your first like job? Like, did you set out for stop motion?
No, not at all. I definitely came out for features. My big hope was to write, like blockbuster movies, like just massive action. That's my favorite. And so,
Nice.
Had a bunch of scripts and had made some, projects in Colorado, some features and shorts and things like that, and then came out here, and I was able to get on a set really quick because I had done some set assistant work for people in Colorado, and then it turned out they were a crew from LA that had gone out to Colorado to shoot, so they were all from here, and had a good time working with them, and then they were like, hey, come out to LA anytime, and I took them up on it, and it was just literally me and my best friend at the time, like loading up our cars and driving out. And then I think within like 2 days I was on a set, and it was actually it was Netflix's very first movie that they ever did, and it was called Touchback. And the director got it because he like made a short film and then won a contest, and that's how Netflix decided who would make their very first movie. But I've never actually seen it, so I don't know what it's like.
No, I don't think I did either.
Yeah, I don't ever remember them talking about it. This was even before like Lilyhammer, if you remember that like original series that they did.
Dude, I thought you were gonna say House of Cards. I was like, but it was actually Lilyhammer because I watched it because I loved Steve Van Zandt so much.
It was pretty good. I liked it.
It was because I'm a huge Sopranos fan, fanatic. Yeah. And my wife is from Bloomfield, New Jersey, where they filmed the famous last scene, and my mother-in-law is from Newark, so like, but oddly enough, none of them watched it. Like they were there when they were filming it, like all that stuff. So like when we started dating, I had just finished it on DVD when we first started dating, so when I was pretty obnoxious when I made her bring me to Holstein's, like, oh, this is Tony, and this is Centrioles. Like I did like my version of a little Sopranos tour of North Jersey, because like Ed Jr. lives in Belleville and they lived in Belleville, like it's so much fun. But yeah, we're not here to talk about my love of The Sopranos. You're much more interesting.
I have not taken the time to watch The Sopranos yet. I am basically ashamed to say.
My brother has it's tough, because for some people, if you have a hard time with older technology, because the way that show worked is like they filmed like season 1 in like 1999, but it doesn't air to 2000, and then the next season's like 2003. So like in the very first season, they're like hijacking a truck for DVD players. So you have to like kind of be okay. Like, I mean, it's very good, don't get me wrong, but like that first season is just gonna be like a little bit older than you might expect. So for my brother, for some reason, that's like too much for him. But I also get it. There's so many things on TV. You're just like, sometimes you just get to a point like I'm just never gonna see it, and I respect that sometimes.
Yeah, there's too many good shows to watch, too many good movies to watch, too many good books to read, too many good albums to listen to.
Yeah, and the worst part is I tend to personally listen to some bad stuff on purpose, or like watch bad stuff. I'm like, I could watch like high art, but I really need. I don't know if I call it bad, but like, I'll just watch the same. I mean, this is so embarrassing. I recently, by choice, was rewatching Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, awesome!
The Melissa Joan Hart one, which I'm gonna go hard and say it's super underrated. But it's of all the things I should be watching, it shouldn't be Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I don't know. I guess I'm really of the mindset of that, like, if you like it and it's good to you, then it is good art, kind of thing. Not like creating these divisions where it's like, oh, I only like this kind of art. Like, I'm not into that.
No. And have you ever noticed too, like the more niche the subculture is, the more asshole the fans are, especially like in music. I know you're a drummer as well.
Yeah.
But like, especially in like metal, or like, I come from like the scene, like, be like, I will get in an argument. I've stopped this part of my life because I've learned not to, but people like, for example, will be like, Taylor Swift is a piece of garbage. I only like Anal Cunt, or like Cannibal Corpse. I'm like, what?
It's like, it's pretty narrow view there, you know? Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff out there.
I know T-Swift A is fucking wonderful, and both of those bands are garbage, but still. Or like, I don't really like them very much. It's not my style metal, but I respect people that do.
Totally, yeah. I really, that's the cool thing about it, is that, you know, you can't judge anyone thinking, oh, they might like this band or they definitely don't like this, because like, you're always surprised by people. They always like, oh, I listened to this, and you're like, oh, really? I was not expecting that answer from you. But that's awesome.
Yeah, there's like fans, I think, of stuff, and then there's like actual music fans, like people who just love music.
Yeah,
like,
and it, you know, to match all of their moods too. You know, it's like, I don't just feel one emotion all the time, or I'm not just stuck in one mood. It's like, I need different things for all the different feelings.
It's kind of interesting. Like, I definitely, like, as a scene kid, and then, you know, like most people kind of listen to the same music for the like 10 straight years, and then recently been kind of trying to jump back into some relevance of what the kids are doing, if you will. So like, I've just been learning about like emo rap and stuff, and like I have friends who shit on it. I was like, I don't know, I kind of really like it. And then I'm like 100. I'm just in this. You're catching me on a phase where like the new Machine Gun Kelly album is like, I haven't felt this way about a record since I was a teenager, because it's somehow like new. It's a whole different genre of music I've never heard before, but yet so familiar with all like the pop punk throwbacks. I don't know. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's incredible, and I've been getting so much shit from my friends for it. I'm like, you are turning yourself off to like a really beautiful piece of art that we would have loved if we were 18 right now, that our parents would have shit on.
Totally. No, yeah, it's amazing the walls that we put up. Like, and I've done it too, you know, like been surprised about stuff later on in life, and then I'm like, why didn't I give this a chance early on? You know?
I've done that with Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I just if I get like a fan base I don't feel comfortable with, I can just be like,
you know, maybe that's what a lot of it is, though, is that like, it's not like the product, but you see the fan base, and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to step in that club.
And D&D people are really nice. It was actually more my own personal issues of being like, I'm just afraid I'm not smart enough to play it, and some people are I always just assumed everyone was comic book man from The Simpsons.
Right, yeah. You get stuck in those things, and then you meet them, you're like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. No, all the D&D people I've ever met in my life are nothing but nice, and also like go-getters. Like they all seem to be doing really well in their lives, you know. Like I've never met someone with D&D that I'm like worried about them, you know, or anything. They're always really solid people.
Yeah, that was always the joke, right? They just sit in their mom's basement. You mean Vin Diesel and the Russo brothers?
Yeah, seriously, all these like all the most successful people are all like, yeah, I definitely get down with D&D. The weird thing with D&D is everything about me says I should be a huge D&D fan.
Same.
Like just everything about the way I grew up and who I am, everything about it says I should be into it. And I didn't get into it growing up. And I've gone to so many sessions with friends, you know, kind of in the late 20s, early 30s. And I still can't fully get into it. And I don't know why, because I kind of want to.
Me too.
But it's just something, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I don't know if you know Pat Edwards. I met him through Ash. He introduced us. But he does like a stream on Geekly Inc. and he like invited me, and I was like, you're the only person I'm like, I will finally do this. I will finally play for the first time in my entire life. I've never played, but I'm like, I finally feel I'm 36. I'm finally ready to finally try it. And I need you to hold my hand, but I'm really scared.
No, you do kind of need someone there to like, yeah, it's sort of daunting in a way. Like making your character and...
It's just like a few TV shows I love, one of which you've worked on, but like, you know, Freaks and Geeks did one, iZombie did one, and then famously Community, and like,
right.
and all of those made me like, I really want to play this.
Yeah, everything about the idea of D&D, I'm so for. And I've looked through tons of the books, just the art alone, and like I'm really into, you know, just gaming. I like board games, tabletop, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so everything says I should be into it, and it's just something hasn't hit yet. You know, I'm waiting for something. I don't know.
It's strange to me too because like you're a writer as well. Of all of like the other the journeyman stuff we'll talk about, like you're like a passionate like a secret writer essentially, or like that's the thing that you do for fun essentially.
No, secret writer is totally accurate.
Yeah. Like you're besides being like a super talented claymation, like oh my god, me and Ball and my producer Bree, we were all like going on our Discord about we were watching your Robot Chicken stuff, and actually I found myself watching your Hot Wheels video like 25 times. Over
cool, me too.
And over. And like, what the fuck? This is so cool. Oh, speaking of Community, they did another stop motion episode too.
They did another one?
I mean, not another.
Wait.
They did the Troy and Abed one.
Oh yeah, was that first season, the Christmas episode?
Is that 1 or 2? Season 2, 1 or 2? Yeah, one of those.
1 or
seasons.
2. Oh yeah, one of the treats when I was getting into Stopmo was getting to meet people that worked on, you know, that or like Celebrity Deathmatch or some of these greats that we grew up with.
Celebrity Death. Nobody remembers that. I mean, I'm sure more people should talk about that. What a weird concept. How do you imagine that pitch went?
I don't know. I guess it was just a different time. Because
I think people like kind of like we wanted to. Yeah, you're totally right. Because like it was violent and gruesome.
Yeah, I loved that show.
I mean, obsessed.
I didn't have like MTV was blocked at our house, so I could never watch MTV. But I would always find the VHSs, and I had gotten one, and I would like hide it in my room because I wasn't supposed to have that, you know, hence the MTV blocking thing. And I would just watch the same tape over and over again. And it was the one I can't remember who they were fighting, but it was the Beastie Boys versus somebody else at the end. So it was like a 3-on-3 fight. I can't remember what it was, but I watched that tape a lot.
Who was the referee? Remember, it was like the bald guy. I don't know if he was famous or not, or if it was a character for the show. And they had the 2 announcers. Dude, I'm like having like a flashback to this show because I remember they would also take celebrities that would have like public beefs.
Yeah.
It was do you remember the episode with the Seinfeld cast? And it was at that time when Jerry was ending the show, and they were like famously like, they were offering so much money. And they're like, no, we're ending it. And it was a Seinfeld cast just like ripped into Jerry, and they just literally tear him and murder him.
Oh, that's right. I was like, what was the twist in that one?
Fantastic.
Man, I want to go back and rewatch that show now.
Yeah. Should we start a side? That's going to be like a side podcast, Celebrity Deathmatch Rewatch.
Can I be on it?
I haven't even thought of this until right now. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, it's funny what sticks in your head because I'm a huge slow-mo fan, stop-mo fan too, but I'm always just in awe of how they do it. But like, so what was your, working on that movie that we both forgot that I already forgot the name of?
Oh yeah, and they kept changing the title too. Like it was Touchback, and then it was the Wheeler Boys, and then I think they changed it a third time because I was just like a set PA on that one, but you would get some emails every now and then saying like, hey, so we're gonna try to have a premiere this date. Oh, and by the way, the movie's called this now. Like that kind of happened for like 6 to 9 months. But a lot of times after you work on something, you just kind of have to get on to the next thing, and you don't really remember. You kind of forget to go look into it, the thing that you worked on.
I guess that makes sense too, right? Because you just, I don't know. Your jobs are different. Like my job, I've been in the same place for 5 years, but like your job, it's like you got to get a job, and then like, all right, it's summer camp, and then you go home, and then sometimes you keep in touch, sometimes you don't.
Yep, and sometimes you have some dry spells in between, and like and even when you're on the job, like you need to be thinking about the next one because some of them, can last like 6 to 9 months, which is great, but a lot of them only last, weeks to a month at a time.
Oh yeah. And so so you were a set PA on that, so you were just like PAing around town for a while?
Totally. I just tried to say yes to everything I could, and I ended up working on like some AT&T commercials and music videos and things like that. Like I was on the LMFAO's Party Rock Anthem video. I worked on that one. That was fun.
What'd you do for that?
I was just like a wrangler. I think I was on set wrangling the dancers. Yeah. One of the actors in iZombie was in that video before he was famous, or before he was on iZombie. It'd be like a throwback, Malcolm something. And it was like one of those things that they'll pick on Twitter for it. Those like featured dancers when they were doing the circle.
I think so. What was that? What year did that song come off?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Something tonight. Was that the era of like 303 was really popular?
13? I feel like it was just after 303. I remember 303 was really a thing when I was still in Colorado.
That's right.
That would have been like 2008, 2009 maybe?
2009 maybe? Yeah, that sounds right.
That was like a big deal. I mean, my phone number is a 303.
303.
Yeah.
It's like, because I saw them at Warped Tour that year. I remember seeing them. And you were just like, you're not going to be here next year, but good fucking
right. You just got that feeling.
I don't mean that meanly either. I have a lot of musician friends, and I totally get it. You got to ride the wave when you get it. Because that was such a idiot thing when I was like young, like sellouts and all that. I was like, as I said that without ever paying a bill in my entire life, or living at my parents' house for free, and driving their car with their gas, and being very privileged, very fortunate to grow up that way, and then be like, oh, I was an idiot.
And then life happens, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
You should not turn down that money. You should take
right.
it.
You need to eat and pay your rent.
Yeah, take that money and run really fucking far with it, and let me get some of it.
Yeah. My brother always uses the example. He's like, even Mozart had to like, schmooze with czars to like get his money so that he could do his pieces. Like you got to.
That's true. I know.
Like starving artist is, I guess there's a nobility to it, but you can only starve so long until you're unable to make the art anymore.
Yeah, there's only one like Fugazi, and then outside of that, it's like they're like the exception to the rule, I guess. And and they never get credit for being such like surprisingly sound businessmen. Like I don't have that skill set. Like that's different than the music. Like I don't know how to run the books.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a mess with that stuff.
I pay someone else. Like you just figure this out.
Totally. That's the dream, to be able to pay someone else for it.
I know. I don't want wealth. I don't want to be like wealthy on my dreams. I just want to have enough money to pay people to do the shit I don't want to do, which is I know that sounds 100%. Really bad. Cleaning.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. I just want to like hire a person to clean the house for me and do my dishes and shop and just basically Wall-E. I just want to sit in a chair all day and eat pizza.
Get a Wall-E, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the robots, like they could be here super fast if we really went for the whole robot thing.
I know. Sometimes I think we're so close, but then sometimes I try to use my Alexa, and I'm like, maybe we're not.
Right.
Maybe we're not as far as we think we are.
Yeah, you see a robot, it's like, oh, look, it stood up, but then like, you can tell they cut the tape right before it fell over trying to take a step or something.
Yeah. So I'm like, we'll get there.
We're not there yet, but.
So anything notable else besides the LMFAO that you're working on this time? You're just like kind of young 20s throughout La La Land.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I genuinely don't remember a lot of it. It was pretty crazy. I ended up at American Horror Story, and then that was kind of when I started my transition from doing set assistant stuff to where I was in the office. And for that one, I was an office PA. And then that's when I kind of got into like, the actual network shows, and then got to be on lots. Like, I think that was on Paramount, that was on Paramount, which was a lot of fun. And then from American Horror Story, I got on this show called Happy Endings. And
that's supposed to be really good.
Months. Again, I really haven't seen a whole lot of it, unfortunately. I wish I could say I had. But then soon after that was when I got on Community, and I have seen Community. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to have to pause there for a minute.
Right.
So what seasons of Community are you on?
Just number 6. I had applied for number 5. Years. Yeah, just for the Yahoo year. And then I wasn't able to do it for the 5th year. So then I was able to do it for the 6th season. And that was, it was like, brand new lot for them, new stages, new everything, just for that one season.
That must have been really exciting to be on the precipice of something new like that. Were you a fan of the show prior to working on it?
I wasn't, actually. I had watched all of the episodes that were directed by the Russo brothers, because I'm such a Marvel fan. And in a lot of ways, I was, kind of trying to professionally, like, get in the same lane as people that I was hoping to work with eventually, Because that was when, that was right when they had gotten, or had they just finished Winter Soldier. And then they were going to direct some episodes for season 6 of Community. And I was like, oh yeah, that might be a good way to, meet them and get in with that crew. And then they ended up not doing it because they got Civil War, like right as we were prepping for season 6. So then they ended up not directing any of that season. But yeah,
choice.
Yeah, right. I think they made a sound choice. Civil War is just great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that movie. Even, I think at the time I kind of maybe poo-pooed on it a little bit, but now since they finished this phase and they kind of do some course corrections, like it's made me like everything that I didn't like more. But
right.
Yeah. I mean, Winter Soldier is like a movie that like you could show to a outside Marvel MCU. Like my parents could watch it with no context and it would just be, they would love it. They would be like, this is great.
Totally.
Don't even know. It's like just a World War, like a spy thriller almost. Like they would love it.
Yeah. It's just solid top to bottom.
I mean, oh my God. That Gary Shandling is in it.
Yeah.
Like that's all I ever need. Like, oh my God.
He was in a bunch of them too. They got him in at least like 3 movies.
Right? It's kind of crazy how many people from Community, from like everyone, like from the writing staff to like everyone has gone on to do something pretty fucking incredible. It's not just Donald. Actually, at the start of that show, it was like, oh my God, Chevy Chase. And now I'd say everyone from that show has like exceeded him.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of showed his colors for the last time, it sounded like, on that show.
Yeah, a little bit. And that, and for the season I was on, we didn't have Chevy Chase, which was, a mild relief. But then, we didn't have Donald Glover, which was kind of a bummer.
Oh, you didn't get to meet him, right? So
yeah.
You didn't get to meet Donald. Oh, so what? On Community, what were you working on? What was your positions throughout the Community world?
I started that one in the office again, and that was kind of when I was really trying to get into like television writers' rooms and things like that, trying to get like a writer's assistant work. And I started there and then did a few weeks as the writer's assistant on that show when their writer's assistant, I think he was on vacation for a little bit. But then an opportunity in the art department actually ended up coming up that was more permanent, and I took that. So then I was in the set decorations / props department for the rest of the season.
And like that's a show too, like anything, but like that's a show where like every little prop and poster and I mean, like we literally have, I can go pretty deep on Community, but like some of the past episodes of like, Abed giving the delivery in the background or they be in like Amy's boobs, so that's fucking cool. So did you have any experience in props, or is this how like, or is it just like, hey, you're here, you're a body?
Well, I had done a lot of artwork for productions, like a lot of independent productions I had done some artwork for. The first short I made when I was 18 is it's a 5-minute black and white, no dialogue short about a toilet that commits suicide. And I made the suit for my friend who was the actor playing the toilet. And so that was kind of the beginning of like quote unquote fabrication for me. And I had, always been helping people because what was so fun about, the first like 5 or 6 years kind of being out here was meeting all the other young people making short films and things. And it was always kind of, who can do what what can, who can offer what to these productions. And so, yeah, I had been making, posters or little props for people in the sketch group that I was in, just little projects like that for a long time. So when I started working on shows like An American Horror Story and Happy Endings and those, I always kind of ended up gravitating towards the art department and helping them out a little bit, and always just got along with them, always kind of like-minded. So yeah, it was kind of a natural fit for me, and I had done a little bit of it. So
that's fucking nuts. And you said are you allowed? We can cut it out if we need to, but you still have the paintball gun that Winger has.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not allowed to have it. I mean, they gave it to me at the end, so that was a lot of fun.
Well, that company, Yahoo Screen, is gone too, right? After they did Community and like a space show, and then just stopped.
Yeah, it was such a bummer because it was supposed to be this revolutionary thing, and we could not get people to watch it. I think now it has a big audience because they finally put it with all the rest of the seasons on streaming.
Yes,
but that one season, it was hard to get people to watch it.
And I was a Community fan. Like I was part of the campaign to keep it on online. There's actually, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a really amazing Community podcast. I guess you call it a scene. Right when it came to Netflix, a ton of them all popped up, and then all the cast and stuff goes on them, and they do videos. It's all the writers. There's it's someone I made friends with my buddy Alex, who does 6 seasons in a podcast. But he's had Danny Pudi and Joe McHale, and
cool.
He's friends with Ken Jeong. It's so cool to see the Community fan base is so different. And for that example is I love Community, and I had a hard time finding it at that time.
Yeah, you were not the only person I talked to that said that.
I couldn't watch it on my TV for some reason. I had to stream it. I don't remember it. It's something that sounds so first world, but you know how it is. Sometimes when you have to put one little step in the way of something, all right, not happening.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how quickly things can get derailed.
I know exactly quickly. It was I have all this technology. Oh, I had to get up to get my phone. I mean, I literally didn't watch a friend of mine something a friend of mine made on Amazon Prime for months because I just didn't know. I just didn't feel like resetting my password.
Yeah, same. I've done things like that.
I'm I'll get around to it. I know you worked years and a lot of work on this, but I just every time I think to go watch it and I have to reset, I just go, ugh.
Yeah.
So it must feel nice now to see kind of your work or the work of Community and the stuff that you put your heart and soul into for that season finally getting its fair share. Because season 6 really good.
It is really good. I was really excited when I saw that they finally got it added with the rest of them because it is such a wonderful arc, and they're still waiting on the movie, which might happen.
Yeah, I think now I think the cast would all do it, but I don't know if you can. But I disagree with that. After especially talking to Ash and all the young creatives out there, I'm they'll find a way. The way Ash was explaining to me how they did it, and it wasn't just a bunch of webcams. It was nice. I remember a few months into the pandemic. I forgot. Oh, I do remember exactly. I remember being really at first. I gave I remember when the pandemic started and Tonight Show and all that stuff turned to YouTube essentially at a level playing field. And it was San Diego Comic-Con was doing a Bob's Burgers panel that I was super excited for because I fucking love Bob's Burgers. And it was literally a Zoom call with everyone had shitty internet and poor lighting. It just looked fucking like garbage. And I was getting so pissed that these multi-billion-dollar corporations wouldn't spend $200 fucking to make something. And I went on a Twitter rant talking Laughstash TV and all these other YouTube channels have been making higher quality art on YouTube for no money for 10 fucking years. And it was so weird. They were I don't understand. Even the Tonight Show was I don't like this trend. Even you still see it now, but it's there's this weird trend with celebrities where it's they have really bad Wi-Fi, they're in the worst room of their house, and everything looks like shit. I'm why? I have an iPhone. So, I don't know what my rant is other than I'm really still mad about that.
No, yeah, it's amazing how behind a lot of the quote-unquote professionals are in those things. It's been crazy kind of being around the transition, into this kind of new media landscape that we have. Because, a lot of the people that work on movies have been working on it for so many decades, and they kind of have a way that they do things. But there's
yeah.
all this new technology, and if it doesn't have like kind of a clever nickname that is from like 1920 or something, they don't want it like around the production. They kind of want the productions like to be run the exact same way as they always have been. And it's like, you can have like smaller, cheaper lights that are just as effective, smaller, cheaper cameras. Just the adapting is kind of happening a little slow.
Yeah, like talking to Ash, the way they did it, it wasn't. She was like, "And we did this and that, and cameras. We use natural light." And then and I've seen stuff like I heard Mythic Quest did a really good one as well. I haven't watched that, Parks and Rec did a good job. I thought they made the quarantine, but it's kind of interesting to see all these years of like YouTube and YouTubers kind of being the butt of the joke of the industry, and even podcasters, but more YouTubers. And now it's kind of like, well, those are the people you're going to need to draw on, because Ash Blodgett knows how to make a movie in quarantine without risking a single life, and
totally,
it's going to look amazing. And Jimmy Fallon, no, I was just flipping through like James Corden, and it was great. But then when it went to the interview, it was literally just a Zoom call and it looked like shit. I was like, what? I don't know. I don't like, it's this thing with like celebrities where they just like, they don't want us to know they're all super rich. I'm like, I don't know. It pisses me off.
Yeah, same.
I'm like, you have a nice house, Justin Timberlake. It's okay. Get out of your laundry room and give me some clear internet and whatever.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's like, it's fine if you have that big place, but just like, don't complain about it to me.
Yeah, exactly. And when you go on the Tonight Show, fucking put a shirt on and look nice. Like, it should still be a privilege that you get to go on. It should not be Jimmy Fallon on a goddamn iPhone. Shouldn't be on TV. But it's like you're saying, you worked with all these independent filmmakers when you're earlier on too. It's just like some of the quality of work that you all put out is incredible. And then now you see like these behemoths of industry and be like, I don't know how to use an iPhone.
Yeah. No, and the YouTubers are such good problem solvers.
Yeah,
especially Ash. Like Ash is a very good example of that. Like there's nothing that she can't figure out the solution to.
Yeah, oh my god! And I was even thinking, like, I remember being really turned off by early YouTubers because I didn't like the really fast cut sequences, like that like style of YouTube, and like it's for younger. It just wasn't for me. But now, like, I was watching it, I put more thought into it. Like, oh, that's because like early on, people are like, nobody wants to watch a screen. Like, yeah. YouTube has to be, the reason it is so quick, and bright colors and all this is, like, no one wants to just sit and watch this. Like, understandably, but, like, like a YouTube video needs to be, like, cutscenes and, and then, or fun, cool art, like the stuff like you all make. So it's so hard. I keep staring at your background. You have such a good background. I've just been trying to...
Oh, thanks. Can you see my McFarlane figures collection?
Oh my god. For anyone else listening, I'm in my daughter's playroom, so I have a picture of a llama behind me. I see SpongeBob and...
That's so cool you guys got pillows made.
Oh yeah, actually my wife got me that. And I can't see in the sweatshirt, but we just got our TeePublic store up, so like now you can do them on there too. But my wife had got these made for me prior, like for Father's Day, and it was like I never had anything like that. I was like, oh my god, I've never seen my name on something before. And then my mom bought my nephew a T-shirt with my face on it, and like he's 6, and I was like, oh fine. My dad sent me a picture of him in a Let's Chat shirt today, and I was like, thanks, Dad.
Right.
That's really nice.
I'm not crying.
And like, because I made we have another one. I made like it's the text to be the same one from the Muppet Show, and it was like my personal nod because I used to watch the Muppet Show with my grandparents, so I wanted to like do a little something. And my parents didn't know that. I was like, I did that for Grandma and Grandpa, and it was so sweet. So working on Community, what was that experience like? Amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. Definitely learned a lot. It was interesting. We were the first show, I think, to ever get this new stage on CBS Radford, and essentially it was an old converted, like, I think it was a parking garage, an underground parking garage, and they just converted it into stages for us to get in there. And all of the pillars that were throughout the parking garage, they just ended up turning into pillars throughout the school. So you didn't even know. But like all of season 6, that's all underground.
What? So like your job is like you're literally walking in, all of you, like your department, you walking into a blank canvas and you just needed to, and you had to like make this look like Greendale? Yeah,
pretty much.
Wow.
It was really cool, because I was lucky enough on that one to start when there wasn't there wasn't a single wall up, and then I got to watch the entire show get put up and shot, and then I got to watch everything get torn down again. So then it was back to an empty space. So
That
that
is
was kind of cool.
crazy. And so, are you ever on set with cast at all? Like, you get to meet Danny and all the gang?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of that because for a long time I literally was like, the guy like running pages down to, the set. Like you'd be upstairs above ground at the office, and then the new pages would come in, and then you'd have to like print up 200 copies or whatever and then run them down to all the things. So yeah, that was very much my job for a while.
That is so crazy. But I mean, for all you people out there, like, you all work out there, so like it's like probably, I'm sure, like anything that is like, I'm like, oh my God, celebrities, but like by 6 months you're like, yeah, whatever.
No, I mean, there's some. I think it just depends on the person, but there's been so many celebrities that I meet and I'm like, oh, that's who that. Like, I had apparently had a bunch of conversations with Bruno Mars and not even known it. And
Seriously?
then finally someone said, do you know who that is? Because I met him at this, I was working at a movie theater for a bit, and he and his girlfriend would always come in, and they were just super nice. And I just thought they were a nice couple coming in. And then finally, it was actually the week either before or after when he performed at the Super Bowl, somebody finally told me who that was. And it was a surprise. So I think it just kind of depends. But then also when I was working at that same movie theater, I ended up meeting a screenwriter that I really liked, that nobody else would have known who they were, but he could tell I knew, he was like, oh no, this writer knows, this guy, thinks he's a writer and he knows who I am. And so, he doesn't have to worry about, people that read Us Weekly knowing about who he is or anything like that.
That's funny.
So yeah, I think it just kind of depends.
Yeah, I worked at Starbucks for a long time, and I worked at one in Providence in the hotel, and like frequently that would happen. I wouldn't know who the famous people I'm talking. Like I would like get like, especially athletes. A lot of athletes would come through that I would never. I don't know anything like hockey. Like, or was it Charo from the Bruins came in, and I was like, oh, you play basketball, and then he laughed at me, or just stuff like that, or like Viola Davis. Like I think I was talking to her and her family, and she's like, oh, I'm an actress and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's real tough. Good luck. And she her and her mom started laughing and I left. And then someone walked over, and she had just won an Oscar for The Help.
Oh man, I am so jealous you got to talk to Viola Davis.
Didn't even know. And just for anyone listening, this is how, at least in that nice moment, besides her and her mother could not be sweeter as to just being nice to random barista. So when she went out to get, I worked at one in a hotel. So they went out to the car to go into the valet. And she opened the door and let her mom get in the front seat, and she jumped in the back. I didn't think anything. But the guy who worked with Carl was like, oh my God, Christopher, do you know who that was? Because she's like, I don't think she was born, but she's from Rhode Island. Like she was doing like a commencement speech up here, so she's like has a lot of ties to the theater. Like that is Rhode Island legend, royalty, Viola Davis. Oh my God, and she's letting her mother sit in the front seat. I just remember thinking like, oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Edward James Olmos like 4 times in one day.
Cool.
And not knowing who he was until after it ended. And I'm like, I actually like kind of, no, by the second time I knew it was him. And then by the third time I was like, God, dude, I'm trying to get to work, man.
Right.
Super nice. He was
He's
really
like
nice.
trying to be your friend.
Because we were up the road from, we were down the street from the headquarters of Hasbro. So that was always fun. But like I'm sure a lot of people I didn't recognize. Like, there's some guy who came in once who said, I think, I had a buddy, like, like when you work retail, you just like make friends with people like in that casual way. One of the guys said that who invented the PlayStation, I guess he had come through one time, but I didn't know his name.
Oh, man.
And what's the guy who made you Nintendo?
I don't know his name.
Yeah,
my girlfriend
like stuff like that, but that's not a world I would even know. But that's too funny. That's so funny. I was going to say community. So all this, you do so much crazy work. And then can you tell us about Mere Mortals? Because I was going to try to paraphrase it, but I don't want to butcher it.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. Mere Mortals is a book that I wrote and I released Christmas last year. And I had been working on it most of my life. In a way, I've kind of been writing that since I was like 12. But then I've just been rewriting it over and over the years. But it's about 2 men who die on the same night, and they get brought back, one by heaven and one by hell, to stop a runaway demon who's causing terror on the earth. And if they don't, they face oblivion. And then it kind of spirals from there.
That's so nice. Wait, so how do you start writing this at 12?
Yeah, it was so different back then.
I just expected that sentence to go so differently.
No, it totally is. Its origins, even though it has nothing to do with that original, thing that I worked on, it was kind of the snowflake that got my snowball running down the hill, and I had done some essentially like I was really into Mortal Kombat growing up. And I had essentially done some, fan stories and making up my own characters and making up my own story. And then it just kept changing and changing and changing and changing. And then I wrote it as a screenplay when I was 18. And that was one of the first big screenplays I wrote. And it's just garbage. And then I wrote it as a book when I was 22. And then I ended up throwing that out after I finished it. Like I've never even read it. And then I rewrote it again, and that was in like 2016 that I started rewriting it. And then that's the version that I just released now because I feel like I finally got it.
I want to make a parody shirt that says "Mere Mortals Kombat."
Yeah.
In like the text of Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Mortal Kombat was the first PG-13 movie I ever saw in theaters without my parents.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I still love that movie. What'd you say?
It was not very good, if I recall correctly.
I would say I really like that movie still. Like I feel like it was like, right, here's the Mortal Kombat story. Like nothing else. It's Mortal Kombat 1. And we're just giving you the base version of it.
Get over here.
Oh man, so many memories.
Yeah, I was way into those and like Tekken. Do you ever play that?
I did play Tekken. Yeah, I pretty much all fighting games I was really into. Street Fighter, really into Mortal Kombat, Dead or Alive. All of them.
We grew up
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Like so I grew up in where I grew up in Meriden, Connecticut, and I didn't learn this till later in life, but that we were a test market. I think there was only 4 in the country for Burger King to compete with their McDonald's Playscape. It was called Burger King Castle, or no, it was Burger King. It was Burger King and Jester's Courtyard. So like it was a regular Burger King restaurant, but the outside kind of looked like a castle, and next to it was a Jester's Courtyard. They were connected, and it had like this just gigantic arcade. It was every so often I'll go down a Reddit rabbit hole because it's such a niche thing. But it was about a mile from where I grew up. But because of that, like I had so much more because arcades were kind of already a thing of the past when I grew up. I was born in '84, but we still had this like very very much active like pre Chuck E. Cheese. No, Chuck E. Cheese. Well, at least where I live, we didn't have Chuck E. Cheese yet. So, like, my Mortal Kombat was not as much... It was literally playing the arcade game. Even though the home one existed, all of my memories of that were literally going to the arcade and just like... And like, just like... which, I love playing it at home, don't get me wrong, but just like the big box arcade game, oh my god, I want that in my house so bad.
Me too. That would be a, kind of a dream purchase, frivolous dream purchase for the future.
Yeah, that and like skee ball. I want a skee
ball.
ball.
Yeah, I would love to have a skee ball in my house.
And pinball, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Simpsons pinball. That's what I really want one day.
Oh, yeah. I want the Simpsons arcade game.
Yes. And someone's like, oh, no, you could just make one. I'm like, no. You're not understanding. I want to have so much money that I'm like, I'm buying this. This
is the first one they ever made.
Yep. That's too funny. So that's so nuts. So you've been writing this book since you're 12, and now you're... You write it much differently, but that's so. What's your journey been with the book?
What's my journey been with the book? It's been really interesting. I haven't even really thought about it in those terms, but like, it really is. I was saying when we were talking in email, like it's the first thing I think about, in the morning. It's the last thing I think about at night, and it's just kind of this thing that I just always felt I should do, and I always wanted to do. So it's just dominated my thoughts so much that's why I've, written it and rewritten it and done so much on it. I've done so much art about it over the years and things. And
yeah, because your email really resonated. I was like, I 100% know what you mean. Like, don't tell my wife and daughter, but like, yeah, same thing. Like this podcast has grown bigger than what it started as. But yeah, for so long it was like, I was kind of like, it was like my little side fantasy. Like I loved like, I always would think it's like my slice of like being a talk show host where like I love the Larry Sanders Show, and like I mean I know it was like satire, but like how like that's all control this entire life, but for some reason but I understand, like I wake up and I think about it, and I think part of it is like a healthy distraction from reality of like putting just a hyperactive anxious person anyway, so I think it's like it helps me put some of those thoughts that might be of not good thoughts that make me less happy. It's just to put that anxious energy here. And
totally.
It turned into something that's very, I'm sure as you know too, like it can turn into something really wonderful and connects you to some. It this the journey it brings you on. Like, I mean, it's like it's so interesting. Like, there's the art of the writing, the art of the process of doing, but all the stuff, like think of all the people you get to meet. Like, it just turns into this like way. For at least for myself, it's like it's kind of like a secret way to make friends.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
can I just say really quick too? Like, it's been so much fun to watch your podcast, just blow up.
Oh, thank you so
this
much.
past year, like it was when we were first talking before, I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then, all of a sudden you're getting like, Griffin Newman on, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like I loved that episode, and I'm a big fan of his.
Thank you.
And you guys talking about the tick and all that was so cool.
Oh, that was such a highlight. And I wanted to put this out there for everyone to know the truth what happened. You were very kind, and Ash had connected us. I was like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then the pandemic happened, and I think I canceled. I forgot why. And then the pandemic happened. And I totally did the thing where I just forgot. Like I just completely forgot to respond. And then I went into a shame spiral. I'm like, it's been too long. And then I ignored it.
Right.
And I'm so sorry. And then you were super nice and wrote back, and I'm like, John, thank you so much, because I remember even thinking about that. I was like, fuck, I actually like felt bad about it. Like 3 or 4 months went by, and I would like pop in my head. I'm like, it's something I work on with therapists of like responding to messages and all that shit. But I was like, man, and you wrote back, I was like, yes, oh my god, thank you so much. I felt so bad and so much God, but thank you for those kind words as well. But it was so nice. I was like, thank you. I totally did the thing. I'm like, well, he clearly hates me because I blew him off. Like, how like, it's funny we put those narratives out there that are not even true. You were like, oh, you have a family. You were so kind. I was like, thank you. You're very validating.
Oh gosh, I know what that's like so much. I know exactly what you mean.
I just assume that people oh, they hate me, or they don't like me, or they don't. I don't know. You do that, and a little tidbit too. I love sharing this story with the Griffin Newman episode, which was like, I'm a fanatic of the Tick and huge Blank Check fan, and same. So we had actually done 2 episodes, and this I think this is important to tell him because this is how nice he is as a human being. Did an episode. It was the first weekend, the first full week I was at work when the pandemic had hit, like America. It was that first weekend. I worked like 6 straight days. I work at a hospital. This is when the CDC is saying that everyone needs PPE, and the hospital we're working in isn't giving us any because there isn't enough. So it was a very tough time for me. And my daughter was sick that weekend, but we still did it, and she kept throwing up, so I had to keep running downstairs. And at one point, he's like, hey, man, I ran down, so she up twice during the interview. It was about 30 minutes. I came back upstairs. He's like, hey, do you want to just do it again? Like, I'll come back in a couple weeks. And in my head, I normally would be like, no, but I was just dead inside. I was like, I got 30 minutes, whatever, we're fine, we'll never talk again. And he held his word. He actually came back, like, a couple weeks later, he reached back, we got connected. And then he was beyond kind at this time, but like I just still couldn't get over that. I was like, you don't owe me anything, and the fact that he like was so nice to like go like both you and him. I don't know, that stuff always sticks with me in my heart. Like it means so much. I was like, I like when people are nice, and people need to hear those stories. So I think that's such a good story to his character. I'm like, what a good person.
Yeah, we need more stories like that.
Yeah, and I'm just such a fucking fan of his. It's still kind of weird. I'm like, I can't believe we talked to each other.
Right.
But
that's again that like celebrity thing where it's like, I could see somebody else and not care, but if I saw, Griffin Newman out in public, I definitely say like, oh man, I'm a fan, like,
Yeah. I had a buddy of mine I used to work with in Starbucks in Connecticut. His brother is an actor, not the one who works in Community, but his name's Chris McKenna, not the Chris McKenna from Community. There's another Chris McKenna.
Right.
He lived in LA forever, working at this was years ago, but he worked at this coffee shop, and he would tell me stories like, yeah, people come in, wouldn't care, Johnny Depp, whatever. But he's like, you were on that one episode of Veronica Mars, and like zone it, and like I'm that same way too. Like Griffin's one of those people I could spend like an hour on, and then someone's like, that's Beyonce. I'm like, that's cool.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, but did you hear his analysis of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like, yeah.
Was that from Blank Check?
Yeah, they did. They just did a Blank Check. They're doing the Zemeckis series right now.
Oh, cool. I need to get in on that.
It's so good. They just did Back to the Future.
Oh, nice.
It's so good. Yeah, that was fun too, because that was like I think that was kind of our kickoff where the short version of this. I started the show in 2013. It was like weekly, going out very hobbyist, but like really fun. It was kind of growing, and then my wife when my daughter was born, my wife had a very traumatic birth, and my wife almost passed. My wife almost died. My daughter was in the NICU. A bunch of stuff happened, and like I had PTSD, and so I actually tried to quit the show. I didn't, but I came very close. And then I had just kind of picked back up and was starting to figure things out again, and then the pandemic happened. But right before the pandemic, I had teamed up with a producer, and then that's kind of ebb and flowed to some producers, and maybe the last like 6 months it went from like a hobby to like, let's make this like, it's actually officially like we're now monetizing and turning it into a business and making a company and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it was a fun time. But that group, when I remember when the quarantine happened, my good buddy Max was like, ask every single person you've ever wanted to have on right now, because this is the right time. And we had like a 4 or 5 run. I was just like, holy shit, I can't believe you all said yes.
Oh, it's been very cool to see the names. Yeah. And, the punk community too has been a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah. Do you know what's, it's not like a business decision, but I was joking the other day. I was like, I love the punk rock people, but punk rockers don't spend any money. And when you have someone on from the geek community, you get people will donate, and so it's like
right.
It's always that
makes so much sense.
Yeah, so it's always that weird torn moment of like, I love talking to like people from that world, but I also really want to like afford to do this. But I just tease the punk community. Yeah, we've been kind of hammering. I was like, I think this show essentially is just like punk rock and geek culture, because that's all I think about all day. It's just like, because to me it's the same way I would like wax over like emo records and like argue about shit is the same way people I now feel about Marvel movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, and I'm a Johnny Come Lately to Marvel. Like the Marvel stuff, I didn't get into them until the movies. I didn't read the comic books growing up. I watched animated, but that's about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for me it was almost the opposite, because I was such a comic book geek growing up. And Marvel, people kind of assign themselves like Marvel or DC. And even though I bought both of them, I bought way more Marvel books, mostly because of X-Men. I was a fiend for X-Men books growing up, because there was so many of them at any given time. There was usually like 6 or 7 X something books coming out every month. So, to grow up and to have them just straight up put the stuff that's in the books on the screen has just been a lot of fun.
I love the cartoon. That was probably my earlier memories. I loved the X-Men animated. Like, I loved all those stuff.
Totally. When we got the Disney Plus, I went back through those and I was like, man, these were actually like pretty solid.
Remember when Morph died? That was the first time I ever cried at a television show. Only to later find out he didn't die. But at that moment.
Right. Well, then it got all uncomfortable because then he was evil when he came back. And those episodes were always so emotional.
It really fucked with me. I remember like skipping faking stomach aches so I didn't have to go to Taekwondo so I could watch the X-Men animated, which kind of shows who I am as a human at this age.
No, like that show is oddly emotional, the voice actors really go for it. Like, yeah,
I've listened to the creators on like other people's podcasts, and like it seems like they were like, and they were making high art in their mind, and they were, but like they fucking cared. Like,
totally.
And it does show, like, there's a handful of those cartoons of that era that, like, a lot of it's garbage, but there's a few that really stick out. X-Men Animated is one of them. Darkwing Duck is another one I think is like, holy shit, like, you really... Yeah. This is really good.
Animaniacs, for me, is one that I always think like that. Every time I watch it. Yeah, I heard about that. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Oh, I'm so optimistic because I want it to be good.
I want it to be good for, I will never like be against something when they announce it, because anything has the potential to be good. And I've been surprised and wrong so many times now that I just absolutely reserve judgment. Like, Heath Ledger as Joker was one of the first times where I was like, okay, I'm going to shut up now. For every decision, I'm going to wait till I see the thing and see what they come up with. And that was a big one for me.
That's a pretty common, a lot of people. Yeah, I have that a lot. Oh, yeah.
And looking back now, it's like, how could I have heard that announcement and not been excited? But I just didn't know. And then the art started coming in, and they were kind of keeping him hidden. But then there was that poster where it was all foggy, and he was kind of standing behind it. It said, "Why so serious?" And then my perception just completely changed. And now I will always wait to see what they come up with.
How shitty it would be if I like went into post and cut out the Heath Ledger and just said and took your voice to say Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh God. Yeah,
I wouldn't do that, but that would be so shitty.
Oh man, very different take on that character.
I don't even have any hot takes on that movie. That was it was a good movie. I think the last 10 minutes kind of undercut everything. All the controversy aside, it was fine. I won't watch it again.
Yeah, I'm not going to see that one again, I don't think.
For no other reason than it was a little darker than a type of movie. I actually think the concept of it was a cool idea, and I hope they do more stuff like that. I don't really need to talk about that movie at all. It just didn't move me. You know what I mean? It was just one of those. It was like, that's good, but I'll move on.
Totally, yeah. And if it doesn't affect you, then that's the issue.
I have ever, because around that time, Hustlers had come out, and that was a much more Scorsese, also a fellow like Scorsese influenced movie, and that movie needed to get. And the marketing of that movie was terrible. It made it look like a party strip club movie, and it was such a heist movie, and it was dark and sad, and you know those like very sexual and titillating scenes were absolutely in there, and I think it did it hot. It was amazing, but like I don't know if you happen to see it, but it was really.
I haven't
good.
seen Hustlers now.
It is literally Goodfellas, and they say like, and that's the marketing doesn't show that. It makes it look like it's like Lizzo and Cardi B, and they're all in it for like 3 seconds, but it is straight up Goodfellas. It is a fucking heist movie. It's such in the style. There's the great twist. They do the surprise narration switch in it as well, like how they do it in Goodfellas, where it's what's his face, and it switches to Lorraine Baccarat. Like,
oh right,
yeah, it's. God, I want to watch that again. It was a really good movie, and like even like with J-Lo and all them looking as like gorgeous and sexy and doing all the beautiful stripping, that part of it isn't even the part of the movie. I don't even come out like, oh my god, J-Lo's ass. So like her performance, so heartfelt and like, yeah, I like a podcast because I just like, we were here to promote people's work that you haven't seen that I have nothing to do with.
No, I've heard nothing but good things about that movie actually. Yeah, and everybody kind of said the same thing you did. They're like, wow, it was like a really good turn from J-Lo.
Yeah, like she should have actually won the Oscar. I forgot who won that year, but it should have been J-Lo.
That's all I need. I'm gonna write that down. I need to go watch that.
Yeah, and it was one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. And I remember being really mad that Joker took away from it. Because and that was like I was like, y'all want to watch a Scorsese movie, you gotta watch Hustlers. Because I forgot the woman's name who directed it, but she's fucking good. Like, it was a good, you're gonna love it. And then, so I definitely want to, oh my god, there's so much stuff to hit up with you.
Yeah, definitely all over the place.
Yeah, I definitely want to circle to your Hot Wheels stuff you did, the RoboShark with Hot Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's my nephew, because like, I loved making those toy car things when I was younger, so how much of that was like, is this work? Because I would be doing this at home anyway.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's like mega arts and crafts, and yeah, working on the Hot Wheels stuff was a lot of fun. Very welcome surprise. You know, that show was just, I've shown it to my nieces and nephews too. And yeah, like you were saying earlier, like they watch it like over and over and over and over again. And it's just so cool to see, because I've worked on so many shows and like, it's kind of hard to get, like you were saying earlier, like it's kind of hard to get people to watch stuff that you've worked on. But that one, I haven't had a hard time, you know, getting my nieces and nephews to work on it or watch it at all. Yeah, and building those sets was super fun, because essentially what we were doing is, you know, they're going to be coming out with a new play set for the year, and then they give us the play set and they say, okay, now build this, but not as the little toy here. Build it as if it was, you know, spread out on a whole big city block, you know, in this town, this Hot Wheels city. And so it's kind of up to us to just figure out how that all works.
What's that process? So like, so there's a day of your job where you all get to come in and you're just like, first you just have to play with them to understand them. Essentially,
yeah. Like that one video that I sent you with the, it was like a big tower that the cars kind of did a spiral up in.
Yeah.
And there was an ice cream cone and all that. Like that took a lot of kind of, you know, reverse engineering. And so I had to just kind of study the toy over and over and over again and be like, okay, so how do they get it to do this? And then, you know, I had to blow it up and expand it to several times the size of the toy. And so then it came with a whole bunch of new set of problems of like, and you know, one of the nice things is that the cars on that, they don't actually have to shoot down any tracks or anything, because they're all going to be animated frame by frame by frame by the animators. So it's just trying to figure out the trick of like, what does the animator need out of this build to do what they need to do to make it look like the cars are shooting around on these, you know, play sets.
Do you get to bring the box set home with you afterwards?
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh my god. I think it's so funny of all that cool stuff you've done. If anyone can see your what we've talked about, I'm like, you got to play with Hot Wheels, and I think that explains this podcast very well.
Oh yeah,
Toys
absolutely.
are fun.
Oh, it's so much fun. And then we did that. I don't know if you saw too, but we have this other series. It's called Monster Truck Island.
I watched the preview on Crackle.
Oh yeah, it's super fun, and that one is just crazy because the ideas they come up with are just so much fun. Yeah, it's just playing in a big sandbox essentially.
Like, how do you even get into stop mo? Like, there's not. Well, actually, I'm curious. Do you think the market for stop motion has increased since the advent of YouTube? Because when I was in college, they were talking about it was going to be a dead art form pretty soon.
Yeah, that's definitely a conversation a lot, on the stages and everything. But there has been a pretty good upswing in stop-mo content in the past couple of years, and actually especially since COVID happened. I feel like all of animation is actually having kind of a big renaissance.
We're about to have a fucking boom. It's like the only thing. Netflix has put in a lot of money.
Totally.
Into it. Yeah, that all the companies are just like, oh, all right. Maybe people are going to be like, they're not for kids anymore, and they haven't been for 30 years, but okay.
Yeah, and there's so few people doing it. In Los Angeles, there's essentially like 3 games in town, and none of them do movies. And then up in Portland, there's a couple studios up there that do the feature films. All the Leica movies are all made up in Portland. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, stop-mo is not very profitable. Like, I think only Chicken Run essentially has been really successful as far as stop-mo feature films go.
I love that movie.
Oh yeah, Chicken Run's great. But even Nightmare Before Christmas, like we were talking about, that's kind of the example I usually give to people when I'm trying to explain to them what I do. Even that didn't really make money when it came out. It was only once Hot Topic and the merchandising really, hit with that movie that it started making a lot of money and got really popular. So yeah, unfortunately, there's not a lot of money in stop motion animation. So hopefully that changes here soon. There's been a lot of integration of CGI with stop-mo lately. Like Aardman's been doing it a lot. They did Pirates either last year or the year before, and that was kind of a hybrid of CGI and stop-mo and things like that. But one of the things... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the things I like about stop-mo is that, it's wonderful that you have with CGI the ability to solve so many problems in so many ways, but with stop-mo, it's just so much fun having to solve them, in real life with something that you can hold tactily, trying to do it in the camera kind of thing.
Well, yeah, because, maybe, I think Starburns industry, because they did those community episodes, it feels like the people who are making it is because they fucking love it. But,
yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I was trying to, as we were talking, you were saying all that, it made me think, my first introduction to stop-mo was Gumby.
Oh, yeah.
You must have watched that as well.
Yeah, I watched Gumby, and I think Thomas the Train Engine, I think, was probably stop-mo as well.
Oh, I bet. My daughter is in a huge Thomas kick right now.
Cool.
Didn't know much about the Thomas, and for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know, I'm learning the history of Thomas, but she's watching the one whatever's on Netflix. I think the newer versions. That show is super fucking woke. Oh my god. It travels the world. When they go to a different country, the trains have the accent. If they're in Italy, the Italian trains sound like they're from Italy. I'm going to assume the voice actors match. It is the most global show. So today's Halloween, the day we're recording it. So she was Bo Peep. She had 2 costumes. She was Bo Peep and she was Anna from Frozen. And she's not really into the princesses too much. She's not against them, just not really into it. And the best example today, so she's going to put on the crown. It wasn't and she goes, just like Brigitte, because there's an episode of Thomas where one of the trains named Brigitte wears a crown. And I'm like, how cute is my little 3-year-old is 3.5-year-old's Brigitte wears a crown, not Cinderella. And
right.
Go you, Thomas the Train. And that
that's awesome.
In your head. So I was yeah, Richie, you wear that crown.
Man, some of those children's shows are just so much more well produced and put together. I get more in awe of Sesame Street the older I get.
Oh my god. And I hate that she won't watch it as much as I want to, because they do some really good parody stuff too.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones and they do ones where they get kind of political without getting political, and they make fun of the president a lot, or
totally.
Yeah, Sesame Street. I was just talking. I did an interview with Pete, who plays on Streetlight Manifesto, which is one of my favorite bands. And like at one point we ended up talking about like kids music, and I was just curious on a musician standpoint, and I was like, yo, Daniel Tiger, like that's like good, right? He's like, like that's actually good music. I mean, it's kids music, but like the composition of it, of like, there's a few kids show, a lot of it sucks, but like it's like the Muppets and Daniel Tiger, like the music for Daniel Tiger, if you just took out the kids singing, it's fucking insane the amount of work that goes into that.
So well produced.
I know. I wish there was more like stop mo for like the kids stuff, and like, well, and maybe that's the problem, because that's where the money is, kids, because they don't watch anything of quality. They watch it 7 million times in a row.
Totally. One of the most successful stop mo projects right now, Tumbleleaf, is for kids, and that's still cooking. So
to try that one.
Yeah, it's cool.
Do you think if it wasn't for like Seth Green and Robot Chicken, like, which I know you work on as well, but like, that seems to be the most consistent stop mo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, Robot Chicken is definitely the staple for Stupid Buddy Studios. It's kind of the thing that they're hanging their cap on, and it kind of allows them to do all these other shows.
Yeah. So what's your journey getting to Robot Chicken?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of artwork, and I ended up working for these commercials for Denny's, these things called like the Grand Slams. And just a job that I took, and then it ended
I'm in the
up
Northeast. I'm very familiar with the Denny. I also grew up in the punk scene, so I've spent a lot of time at the Denny's.
Oh yeah, at like 3 a.m. after a show.
Yep. Have you seen the video of a band playing at Denny's? I don't know where it is. It's circling around in like certain sects of the internet, and it's like a meme. But somewhere there's a punk show at Denny's, so the hardcore frontman is like, "What the fuck is up, Denny's?" And it's like become like a meme within like certain circles of like these like nostalgia or like Facebook groups I'm in for like that type of thing. But it's like that's so hard. That's the hardcore scene in essence. What the fuck up? What the fuck is up, Denny's?
That's awesome. For me, it was Waffle House.
So fucking jealous, my man.
Oh, dude, I loved it. Like, yeah, there was this one right off I-25 on our way back into Longmont. Yeah, and oh man, going to see shows, and then on our way, after going to Red Rocks, and then you're on your way back home and going to Waffle House at 2 a.m.
You got to go to Red Rocks.
Oh my god, I feel so spoiled getting to go to Red Rocks. Like I've seen Incubus twice there, and so many other shows like Punk on the Rocks, and then they do Film on the Rocks, and it's almost kind of a curse as well as a blessing, because once you've seen a show at Red Rocks, every other venue is wasted for the rest of your life. Like none of them can live up to Red Rocks.
We'll definitely circle back to Robot Chicken. I want to ask you more about Red Rocks. I've never been, but like that's. Can you explain to people who are listening? Because I've only seen videos and pictures. It's like the most beautiful venue in America, in the world, possibly.
It's not only the most beautiful. It's the best acoustics I've ever heard. In a venue anywhere. Essentially, what happened was up in the foothills. There's all these really flat-faced rock formations in this area of Colorado, and I'm pretty sure it was during the Great Depression. The government was like, we need to put some people to work, so they essentially hired a whole bunch of people to build an amphitheater out there. And
that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and they just made Red Rocks, and it's incredible because the stage is essentially at the very bottom, and then the stands kind of shoot up into the mountain. And what's so cool is that when you're up in the audience, you can see like the Denver skyline in the background above the stage. So, there's the stage right there, and then just above it is the Denver skyline. And if you're lucky enough to get, like a full moon, and then the full moon comes up right over the city too, it's a very cool place to see music played. Yeah.
All my musician friends, that's always like the place they want to play. That's like the place. That's like the venue.
Totally. It's like the Madison Square Garden of music venues, I feel.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds nicer than Madison Square Garden, because Madison Square Garden's great, but there's like a train station underneath it. It's really big. Right. It's like,
different vibe. Yeah, because like, Red Rocks is like way out of the city. Like you have to leave civilization to get to Red Rocks.
I just love that. They're like, let's just put an amphitheater here.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado's got all that legal weed.
Yeah. Of course, that was way before, too. But I mean, it didn't matter. Like, if you went to see a show at Red Rocks, like, yeah, you were definitely
kind of assumed.
That was where I was like, what's that smell?
Oh, thanks, Mom. Am I right? Did I remember this correctly? Isn't Colorado already they're working to legalize mushrooms?
Yeah, as far as I know, they're the ones pushing for it the most.
I would love to go there and do that.
I'm so proud of them.
But I would like to.
Yeah, Colorado is great. I'm so glad that I grew up there, and I'm enjoying living in California, but Colorado, I just can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, I've never been, but I think I probably, if all this pandemic hadn't happened, it would have been like it's on my bucket list of places to go to. It just sounds so beautiful, and like I've never done mushrooms, but if they were legal, I would consider it.
See, and it's not immoral if it's legal, so.
Yeah. Oh, there's never the morality. That was never my problem, because I've done I've done EMDR therapy, which is it's this there's like I know there's a lot of research behind of microdosing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But EMDR therapy is basically the same as effects of doing microdosing without actually doing any of the drugs. So like I'm now at a point in my life where I feel comfortable like I could do a hallucinogenic and not freak the fuck out. Like for so long in my life I was just like no. But now I've had
I know this about myself.
Yeah. It's like, nope, I can't do deprivation tanks. I can't do that stuff. Hallucinogenics, like, nope, too anxious, not going to do it. And now I'm like, yeah. But now I'm at just more of the safety concern of, like, what if I had to get them? And I don't know. It's just it's not that much pressing for me to do them. I'm also like a drug counselor, too. So this is a great thing to talk about.
Right.
Yeah, I'm past that part of it with my job. But yeah, so I remember my aunt and uncle went to Colorado after it was legalized. Marijuana was legalized, and they said they got a rental car, and they like reached down the seat and pulled up like someone had left a huge bag of weed.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
Did you smoke it? They're like, no, unless they were lying to me, which I don't think they were, because they're very wonderful, but I don't know. I don't think they're pot people.
That'd be pretty rock and roll if they did.
I know they're the fucking coolest. They're so cool. Is your family still in Colorado?
Yeah, most of them. I have my sister and her family is up in Portland, and then the most
I have
of them
cousins in Portland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My cousin, my little baby cousin Nico, is in an episode of Portlandia.
Oh, no kidding! I love that show.
Yeah. I think it's like the first season when they're screaming and yelling about a dog being tied up.
Oh yeah, I totally remember.
At the very end, it's a baby. Yeah, that's my cousin Nico. So his mom is my cousin Sarah was in a band called Unwound that like toured a lot with Sleater Kinney. So she's like very friends with like Carrie and all those people. Like Fred Armisen, she's like not a celebrity at all, but Fred Armisen, she is kind of. That's the best way to put it, because they were like that Sonic Youth. And my cousin Andy's up there too, and all of their family, and kind of I just got this. They sent me for my cousin's daughter. I think she's 9. They just sent us this like letter she had written about her experience of living in Portland right now with all the stuff happening and the COVID, and it was. Man, kids are so resilient. Like she was not what you would expect. It was really touching to see all that. But that took me down a path. So all right, so your sister's in Portland. So have you gotten to go up there?
Yeah, I've been up there a few times. Not anytime recently, unfortunately. But I really like Portland. That city's vibe is great.
Yeah, I'd like to go. And then Colorado. Oh, that's so cool. Have you gone back to Colorado since this all happened?
I have, yes. Did a quick road trip and went back. I was actually there for like basically a day, and we had 2 babies born in our family during COVID.
Congrats!
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm an uncle twice over again.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations!
Thank you so much. Yeah. So that was really exciting. And finally, everybody was in one place at one time, and I said I have to go and meet the kids.
Yeah, that's too special.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a proud uncle. I have a nephew, 2 nephews and a niece, and it's the best thing is, especially when they start to hit around like 5, they want to just talk about the stuff that they like, but it's also the stuff I like.
Totally.
So like get along with kids a little too well. Like all of my friends with kids, like I'll end up talking to their 5-year-old longer than them.
Right.
Like, hey Alicia, good to see you. Hey, let's talk about Mario.
Totally.
And they're like, oh, good, I have no idea what he's talking about. Our friend Karish's little boy, Sebastian, they convinced me to play Minecraft. Or I'm going to, like, talking to him, like, that sounds awesome. And they're like, oh my god, that was so nice that you're engaging him. Like, yeah, I was being nice.
That's all I was doing.
I just want to play a Switch. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, for sure. This trip back actually was one of the most fun times I had hanging out with my nieces and nephews, because, like, they're playing Pokemon now, and I'm a recent convert to Pokemon. Actually, just in COVID was when I first got into it, and now I would actually call myself like a Poke fanatic. And it was so much fun, like getting to hang out with them and talk about that stuff.
I know, it's so weird that like the adults look at you like, why do you know what all these because they're all in like Pokemon and Mario, and our other friend Laura, like her, I remember talking to her little boy who's like 6, and we were talking about Spider-Verse. And like at a certain point, I got lost in our conversation. And he was like, well, he's like really cute. He's like, my favorite part is when Miles jumps off the building and the music kicks in, and then I'm like, oh my god, me too.
That's my favorite part too.
That's the best part. And then I'm like, yeah. And then you get to like kind of like be like kind of tell them fun facts that everyone already knows, but 6-year-olds don't. So you're cool.
So you're awesome to them.
Did you notice the music transfers from hip hop to classical? I'm gonna go back and watch that. Thanks.
Oh yeah, that's a good feeling, and then you get to be the one that brought that to them.
Yep, I know. I never hated children. I've worked with them and stuff, but like I was never really comfortable around kids until my nephew was born, and then I had my own. But yeah, being an uncle is fucking awesome.
Oh, it's great.
And I've learned this from my own daughter. They won't like anything you show them, so I can't show my daughter anything I like, but the uncle can. So like I've got my nephew into Mario, and I'm able to like. I got him a Mario comic book early on. We went to go see Sonic. I bought him Calvin and Hobbes. And then my own daughter, I'm like, you'll figure it out because you don't like anything I show you.
Right.
So it's actually more fun. It's way more fun being uncle. You get to, especially with your line of work, you literally get toys.
Totally. Yeah, I got to bring home, like a bunch of Hot Wheel cars for this last trip, and that was a lot of fun. Absolutely, 100%. I like it. Oh, sorry.
That must be the best. Are you excited when they're old enough and you can give them like Mere Mortals and all like the books you write? And
totally. Yeah, it's funny that my siblings and in-laws have been asking, or not in-laws, but my my brother-in-law and my sisters-in-law. They've been asking about it, and I just have to tell them, like, I'm so sorry. This would probably be rated R. I cannot condone you guys giving this to them.
It's too funny. That isn't that what a good uncle does when they're like 1 year away for appropriate material? You like kind of slide it to them, like, here you go. Here's that George Carlin record.
Although I keep getting surprised because my brother just recently showed my nephew. What was it? Was it like Terminator 2, I think, or something? And I was like, he's 8, and so it's like, man, if he's watching Terminator 2 already, then probably not too far off from Mere Mortals,
right? Yeah, I think about this too, like now as a parent and stuff, or like for aunts and uncles, everyone out there. It's like, I feel like a society we should all just agree that like let's just give up on like hiding bad words and stuff from kids because they got the internet.
Right.
Like I don't understand how I'm gonna shield her from seeing Star Wars when I have Disney Plus. Like all she has to do is hit the non-adult version and it's like bam or whatever. So like let's just all just take a break and be like everything sucks. So we're gonna say shit and fuck and damn and little kids are gonna watch stuff that's a little ahead of them because they're going to see it soon.
Yep, absolutely. I can't even imagine what it's like now being a kid, having access to so many different avenues, like what they're able to see and get their hands on.
It's the same thing we went through. The same way our parents would be like, back in my day, we had 3 channels.
Yeah, good point.
They don't, and actually one of the nice things I've noticed, I'm curious if you noticed this as uncle as well, which is so funny. We're here to talk about all these cool things you work on, but it's always like, but that's what I think is sweet. Like we're all just like secretly like, we just love our family.
Totally.
Like for Christmas, like my nephew got a Switch and he was so excited. But he also got a Polaroid camera, like a retro 90, but they redid them for little kids. He was more enthralled by Candyland and that. And I was thinking about it, I was like, oh yeah, because to Benny, he grew up with a cell phone in his hand. Like, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like, whatever. But board games and all that old stuff is like new. So him and all his little friends love tabletop games. Like, that's the punishment. The Switch is like, yeah, whatever. But it's like, no, I have to play Candyland, or I have to play Battleship, or Guess Who?
No way.
Which sucks, because I go over there, and I want to play Switch, and he wants to play Guess Who with me. Which is like, fine. I played Guess Who a million times.
Oh, man. That's really funny.
Is that with your nieces and nephew noticing that, like, obviously he likes electronics, but, like, the older stuff is, like, gold to them?
I mean, I've just been kind of shocked by their screen time so far. I think it's like, because they're kind of newly getting iPads and phones and things like that. And, so what I see is definitely kind of like, ooh, screen kind of thing. Have to, limit their time. And then I found out that like Xbox, you can limit now. Like if a certain profile is signed in, you can limit how much time they can play. And then it basically just shuts them off.
Yeah, I'm glad. I feel like I'm gonna miss that generation. But then, like, I was making this joke. I'm like, the best thing about COVID is you don't have to hear anyone complain about your kids being on the screen.
Right.
Because once that happened, we're like, whatever, figure it out.
It's like, please get back on the screen.
I actually think the opposite's gonna happen with virtual school. Is I think kids are gonna hate screens, and it's like, I don't want to play video games.
Right.
I want to go outside.
I want to get back outside.
Ooh.
Scrape my knees.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, so I definitely want to talk to you about Robot Chicken, because I was watching the Doctor Strange one right before we hopped on again, because that one has made me laugh like 700 times.
I love that sketch.
It was so fucking... You just left the portal open? It just gives him a tour of hell. Yeah, so what's your journey to Robot Chicken? I think you probably already told us, but I sidetracked us as usual.
Well, no, yeah, I had started working for Stupid Buddy Studios on a commercial. They were doing those Denny's Grand Slams, and then I was used to working on live action stuff, and so that was kind of a new thing for me. And then I had to go, I think I was like going on a run. I had to go to their shop to go grab something. And when I saw their workshop and I saw what they do, that was a big moment for me. And I essentially said, oh, okay, this is what you guys do. Hold the phone. I might need to try to get in here. So then, yeah, I essentially just tried to, switch gears, and then got into building for Stop Mo Miniatures. And I was working on a show called Buddy Thunderstruck at first, which only had one season, unfortunately, and it was on Netflix. And I really like that show, so I would totally recommend that to parents. It's kind of a Buddy Thunderstruck. And, it's got kind of a Southern flair, and it's about these two friends, and one of them is a big wheels racer. It's got a lot of character, and that's fun. But I started on that one, and then from there I ended up working on another show of theirs called Super Mansion, which was a Bryan Cranston, Chris Pine show that they were doing for a few seasons. And then because I had worked on those shows, then when Robot Chicken came along, I was able to transition onto Robot Chicken.
Wait, Chris Pine and Bryan Cranston made a show?
Yeah, it's like a stop-mo animated comedy Avengers, essentially. And
I've heard the name.
Yeah. It only had 3 seasons. I don't think it's coming back, unfortunately. And I worked on seasons 2 and 3 of that show. And yeah, it's kind of just like, Avengers Mansion, but then sort of mixed with Robot Chicken, like sort of that kind of humor. But then it's actually like a story, it's not a bunch of sketches.
I just didn't expect Chris Pine to be in the Stop Mo.
He plays the villain in that show, Dr. Deviso, and it is absolutely my favorite thing that he's ever done in a long list of favorites. I love him as Dr. Deviso.
More so
in that show.
than Wet Hot American Summer?
Yes.
Wow, that's high. That's a high compliment.
Absolutely. He's so good at it.
That beautiful.
Yeah.
And he's Spider-Man, and then they kill him.
I know. Yeah, and that was so good, too, how he was the perfect Spider-Man. And I could totally geek out about that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, we did a watch party about it, and it's my favorite movie ever made.
It's wonderful. And I think it came at a really good time, too, because, it came out, showed that, like, hey, you can do an animated feature film, bring it out in theaters. It doesn't have to just be for kids. It will make money, and it can be gorgeous. And then COVID ended up happening, not too long after. And so I think now the studios are more confident in putting the money into animated features that aren't just, Disney and Pixar. So
yeah,
hopefully, I think in a couple years here
that wasn't like so extended universe stuff. Like it was like, just like the pure premise of it. It's like, here's a movie where we have Chris Pine. We're gonna kill him, and Sinead Moore is gonna take over with Jake Johnson. Like,
right?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fucking incredible.
And then they did the whole deep dive into, the multiverse stuff, which is still, in my mind, kind of a weird jump for general audiences. Because, people that read comic books or whatever, it's been there the whole time. But it's still, I would feel like it's a weird idea still to a lot of people where they're like, oh, so there's multiples of these Spider-Men and they're all different people. But they did it so well.
Again, one of those things before it came out, I wasn't keen to it until after I saw it, but I feel like I would have been like, that's going to suck, it's going to be stupid, why are they going to make it? Stupid, don't make, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, nope, it's a perfect piece of art.
It
is
wonderful.
One of the greatest films I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've watched it at least once a month.
And the soundtrack is so good.
Yeah, my wife actually said it best. She's like, it's a really good, there's just such a... It just has such a good sound. Like the movie itself, just beside the soundtrack and the score, like it just does a lot auditorily, like with the sound effects. Like
Yeah.
I watch it so much at this point where I watch it with my eyes shut and just picture it, because like it's just, yeah, like man, for me that movie too. I saw it in theaters. I was like really into it, but when they played Biggie, when they played Hypnotize, I fucking jumped out of my chair, and I was like, you know, I have a lot of knowledge, like huge into like that era of hip hop. I was like, not only is it like just a hip hop song in New York, it's like it takes place in Brooklyn, like, and you know Biggie's Brooklyn. I mean, hip hop is an art form formed in fucking the Bronx. Like you can go there, so like they're onto something here. They're so onto something different here.
Can't wait to see the sequel.
I know. It sounds like they're doing like 1 million of them.
If they're smart, they will. Yeah. And those artists can stay at home and work, which was great.
Yeah, remember they did that Olaf's Frozen. They did like a Olaf Disney Plus that one animator made at home. Like it is.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it came out during COVID, and like another reason the animation's great, and why it's going to kick the shit out of live action if they don't get their act together, unless they figure it out. Well, I think The Mandalorian I've read is that they're going to film season 3 in COVID, because the way The Mandalorian is like, it's all they made it with like the volume, so it's like unintentionally COVID proof because everyone's already 6 feet and stuff, and
right,
your main guy's wearing a mask anyway.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we just watched that first episode today. It was great.
I've watched it 3 times.
I'm probably gonna do the same thing. That monster at the end was so cool.
I didn't get into Star Wars until The Force Awakens, and I like those movies, but not any offense to those movies. I like them because my wife is a huge Star Wars nerd, so The Mandalorian is the first time I've actually watched anything Star Wars where like I would watch this and have by myself. Like I'm now into it. It's really pulling me into the Star Wars world. Which is so much fun. I loved, and Robot Chicken did that amazing Star Wars episode way back when.
Yeah, I think they've done 3 Star Wars specials. I was bummed I didn't get to work on any of them.
Oh my god, you could pitch a Mando one. I don't know how you're.
I'm sure that's coming. Yeah, and you know we just finished the new special. I'm not sure if it's announced, so I don't know if I can say what it is this year. But I did get to work on the Walking Dead Robot Chicken special, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh my god!
But
so what's the process with Robot Chicken? Like, do they have to write it first and then bring it all to you? Like, and then you have to like say, no, we can't do this. Yes, we can do this.
We go off the animatic mostly. So, you know, the build team kind of has to wait for the animatic to come through. And then once we have an idea, like, okay, this shot, you know, we're seeing this thing from this angle. It's about yay high, you know, and we can kind of make all the generalizations there. And with Robot Chicken, it's cool because a lot of times you're referencing, you know, movies and music videos and shows and things like that. So we can usually go reference the stuff that we're going to build and then try to make sort of an approximation of that set. You know, it just has to get people to understand, okay, this is where we are, and then we can kind of move on from it. So yeah, that kind of makes it a little easier in a sense. And it's fun for me because I just geek out about everything. So, you know, every set that comes down my way for Robot, I'm just like, oh, I get to make this from this movie? Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's, for like the job you have, it sounds like there's not a lot of job security, and you found like the one. Like I interviewed some years back Mike Price, who writes for The Simpsons. And, like, same thing, like a TV writer, not a job that's so secure. And he, like, landed that. He's been there since, like, season 15 or something like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's been there forever. Like, he still works there. And he's gone off to do other things. He's, like, he found, like, it's almost better than fame. It's, like, he found stability and security.
Yeah, lucky duck.
Same, like, I interviewed some of the writers for Bob's Burgers, and they said that only, at least when I had interviewed them, maybe like a year and a half ago at that time, like, only one person had left the show. So, like, all those people are like, I'm going to work here, and we'll probably work there forever, because I don't think that show's going anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Not anytime soon.
And they got the movie coming out, and I think they got picked up for another couple seasons, and now with everything happening with COVID, it's like, I don't think they're ever going to leave. Like, those dudes are there forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, you kind of did, like, the dream. Like, you kind of did, like, I'm going to go into the void of finding, like, the unknown, and then you're like, Mom, Dad, I found stability.
Yeah, absolutely.
In one of the rarest industries.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I think about it now and I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, just doing the whole pack up the car and move across the country thing. But, it, you know, it seems to have worked out. Yeah, it was pretty crazy at the time.
Robot just got nominated for an Emmy this year?
Was it this year? Or was it last? I think it was the last one. You know what?
Great.
I wouldn't have known because I wasn't on Robot 10. I was on the one before it, Robot 9, Season 9.
Oh, okay.
And then I wasn't on 10 because that's when I was working on all the Hot Wheels City and Monster Truck Island stuff. And so now I'm back for 11. So
that's so they let you leave and come back like that?
Yeah, stuff is always kind of like, different crews are going different places, or like, oftentimes they can't get things started right when they want to get it started. So, you can't necessarily wait for them, to be starting the new season. So you go take another gig, but then it's like, oh, I'm on this other gig now and you guys are starting up, so I can't jump ship and be on that, so it's always kind of shifting crews and things. But
that's great.
Yeah.
So, and then lastly, you're also a drummer.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing?
I started when I was like 9, I think.
I guess that makes sense. You're very handsy.
Yeah, absolutely. Most everything I do is very hands oriented.
Yeah. How that's crazy. What band were you playing? I forgot to write down what you said the name of your band now.
Love Equals Death is the band.
Probably not touring right now.
No, we're not, unfortunately. We were supposed to be. So that was kind of one of the big, first casualties of COVID, which was kind of a bummer. As we were supposed to go to Germany for a little bit.
What?
I know. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we were supposed to do Canada. Actually, I think I'm supposed to be in Canada right now. But unfortunately,
my God, you were going to be gone for a long time.
Yeah, well, that was actually going to be 2 different mini tours. But we do have an album coming out. They had an album come out. I'm actually not the original drummer for this band. They put out an album in 2009, I think, on Fat Records called Nightmarica. And then they had broken up shortly after that, and then the lead singer Sean was putting it back together, and I auditioned for them and got in, and I've been with them for 2 years now. And we were just starting to get things going. We were opening for Strung Out, and then COVID hit, and it was kind of a bummer.
Are they still on Fat?
I would assume so. Yeah, I think so.
Because I am my friend who's been a buddy of mine who's been on the show a couple times. He directed the doc about Fat Wreck Records.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, it's so fucking good. Sean knocked it out of the... he's now... We weren't friends when I saw it, but now I'm happy to call him a friend. He's a fucking really nice guy. He's been on as a guest and co-host, and we just moderated a punk rock doc filmmakers roundtable with him and some other punk rock directors. Dude, you got to play with Strung Out, though. I just want everyone to be holy shit.
Oh, yeah. It blows my mind.
Just the fact that you're in a Fat Wreck band is enough, but man, you have your thumbs in everything.
It's so stupid.
How do you balance it all? Do you have pay someone to make a calendar for you?
I wish. That sounds awesome. No, I really just try to think whatever tomorrow needs, that's the thing I'm going to focus on, which so it's just kind of just a matter of necessity, really.
How are you able to tour while work? Are you able to just tour in between jobs?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the nice things about having the, essentially a gig job is that I do, if I wanted to, because you're unemployed quite a bit. And if I end up getting unemployed, a season ends or something like that, and then a tour is coming up or shows are coming up, I can stay unemployed for a little bit if I need to, and then come back and try to get another gig.
How much of touring have you gotten to do?
Not a whole lot. Honestly, most of my music career has been in smaller bands. I started playing in bands in Denver, and I just loved doing that and was in quite a few, and then ended up kind of getting in a couple accidents, and I wasn't able to drum for a while. And that's kind of when I made the move out to Los Angeles. And then when I was in Los Angeles, I kind of kept trying to rehab myself and getting back to the point where I could play. And then once I was confident enough and I felt like I could get behind a drum set and play for a band again, I started playing. But, you kind of go from band to band a lot of the time, especially kind of when you're doing session work for people. So for a couple of years, I was doing session work and just ended up not getting to tour. And then, when I got in with Love Equals Death, that was kind of my first, taste of touring multiple states, multiple venues, things like that.
What's session work like?
It's cool. You meet a lot of really fun, smart, interesting people, and getting to play all the different music. I even though I love punk and I love playing fast and heavy when I'm on stage, getting to try out a whole bunch of different styles is just so much fun and really expands horizons. You must be familiar with the Wrecking Crew.
Oh yeah, that documentary was great. It was really good. So I'm obsessed with that. Like so you're like a musician's musician because like you just play it. Seems like you're everything you do. You're just like I just like everything. I do whatever I can.
That's actually what it is. I like everything. I just really like stuff.
I get criticized for that in my personal life. I'm not a public figure, but I get shit for that sometimes from people. I'm like, I know, but it just makes life a little bit more fun when you just like stuff.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I like liking stuff. And when I do like something, I tend to, kind of go to 11 with it. Like if it's kind of hard for something to catch my eye, but once it does, I tend to kind of spiral in and become obsessed and like, I must know all inner workings of this thing, and
yep, 100%. Like I watched Mandalorian 3 times, and then I have to go on YouTube and watch like Easter eggs, making of. Like I always say, part of my personality is like. I like documentaries about the making of the movie more than the movie themselves. Clerks 2 is one of my favorite movies ever made. It's one of my favorite movies, and I watch the making of Clerks 2 even more than I watch Clerks 2. Like I would rather watch the making of. I don't know. I love that stuff so much.
Totally.
Like I just have to like I was so stoked to talk to you. I was like, oh my god, like other good example of that movie 20 Feet from Stardom. Like, I'm like, everyone knows the Mick Jagger story, but I want to know the story of the background singer. So that's why I was so excited to talk to you. I was like, oh my god, like, I know all the community and all these other people, but like, who are the people who make the stuff?
Right.
Like, it's so fascinating. If you haven't seen 20 Feet from Stardom, anyone's listening, it's about background singers. And it kind of focuses, I forgot the woman's name, but she ends up getting nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but she's most famously, I forget her name, but she does that Rolling Stone song, No Shelter, and the woman's like, yeah, that woman, and like how they got fucked over by Phil Spector. But it's really interesting about like background singers, like that literally you're 20 feet from stardom. You're 20 feet, and you're like, but like I don't know. That's such a fascination of mine, and maybe a dream too. Like when we were talking about like when like my producing team, we all get together trying to figure out what this is. I was like, well, there's only one Mark Maron and Joe Rogan, but like the example I always use music. I'm like, well, everyone knows the Beatles, but like the Beatles drum tech has got a job.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of like that's what we're at. Like let's get to the point where we can make this like a steady gig.
Yeah.
And if something really cool happens, I'm all for it. But like I'd rather make this a comfortable living than like try to make it as like a star or whatever.
Totally.
Which I feel like we're in the same mind of that. We're like, let's do the more and super fulfilling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of said like because with music, it's weird. Like, usually people don't make money with it. And then if you were to tell someone, oh, I'm successful in music, they tend to think like, oh, superstar, mega millions, that kind of thing. And there's like almost no in between. But I mean, if I could make like, 50, 60K a year, like just playing music, I would totally do that. That sounds like a great existence.
Unfortunately, too, for you drummers, because all the technology, you're the ones who are getting wiped out first, unfortunately.
It is very much happening. Yeah. It's
just like
interesting.
It sucks.
Yeah, most people really don't want the I mean, I guess they like to have drummers on stage for live things, but most all the music you hear, recorded nowadays, that's not a real live drummer.
No, they're expensive, and I'm a huge fan of Going Off Track, and Benny Horowitz, who played in the Gaslight Anthem, always going off about like not getting respect, and it's like watching your job just disappear. But obviously, thankfully, he's made a way for another path out there for himself. But yeah, I know it's too bad. Like that era of like session musicians, like that's kind of slowly going the way of the buffalo. Did you happen to watch Miss Maisel?
Yeah.
Did you? I love the scene where when she's with the band. I guess that was based off the real woman from the Wrecking Crew.
Oh, cool.
I forgot her, the actress who played Paris on Gilmore Girls. But like, oh my god, that show is like that's another show like I had to watch, and then I couldn't stop. I had to go like, how the fuck did you shoot this? Because like I like movies and TV. I love TV. I like movies, but like if I'm noticing a visual style, it's not because I'm usually that much of a deeper knowledge than most people. It's more of like, this really stands out. But that's the show I like visually just, oh my god.
Yeah.
The scene with her and Lenny Bruce in Miami when they're dancing, I watched on YouTube the other night, I take it up my edibles and just went on YouTube and watched that 5 or 6 times in a row. I still can't figure out how they did it. And like this music, and he's singing in what do you think in Spanish? Like, oh
yeah, they planned the heck out of those sequences. It's so much fun.
Oh my god! Like, is that a show? Like, what do you watch? Like, what do you watch as a fan that you kind of can geek out of with your knowledge of?
Gosh, I like a lot of it. I mean, I tend to, veer towards like supernatural. I like horror quite a bit. Anything with monsters, I'm totally into. Gosh, I'm trying to think of a show because I do tend to watch more movies than shows, I think. Like with shows, I mean, my girlfriend and I are like obsessed with Great British Bake Off, like
my wife too.
Yeah, like we get into that pretty good. But then also, oh really?
But here, I'm English. I'm half English, and I think that's why.
Okay.
John Oliver has a good bit about it. He's like, you don't understand. They're sniping each other. And I was like, maybe that's why I don't like it. Maybe I don't see it the way everyone else does because I watch it differently. I'm like, I get very uncomfortable and very tense by it.
Okay.
It reminds me so much of like awkward moments of my dad's side of the house. Well, I love greatly. I love my family and my dad and my grandparents. Wonderful relationship. But there's pieces of like when John Oliver made that joke, it's like, yeah, because my grandfather was from England. Like he immigrated to here from England. So it's just like, yeah, maybe that's why I don't get it.
Yeah, it hits differently.
That's so funny, but that's nice for that's how you two the two of you relax.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been nice to get back to the whole like one episode a week thing because I think we did get so used to being able to just like jam through a series.
Yeah, I know. And then your friend, I was watching that sketch you wrote too. By the way, it was fucking hilarious. So I was lurking you on Facebook, but like. All your friends are like Emmy winners, and like your friend Allison wrote for BoJack and stuff. I was like, God damn, man!
Yeah.
What don't you do?
I don't know. I definitely don't do what Allison does. I mean, she's just been killing it out here. That's been great.
I haven't seen BoJack. I think I need to. I've been putting it off.
I 100% recommend checking out BoJack. It's
even now that it's over.
Yeah, definitely. Now that it has a beginning and the end, for sure. It's really something different. As far as animated shows, I don't think I've ever really seen anything quite like it. And it was one of those where you could tell really early on. I remember the first season came out and it was kind of like, man, what's this interesting thing? And then they just decided to make these insane choices with the character early on, and then Allison, who I grew up with, she got in, I think, season 4.
Wait, you knew her from Colorado?
Yeah, like we grew up across the street from each other.
Oh my god! I mean, It's one thing for you to know someone that works on a show, but like given your work, living in LA, that's like, oh, that's cool. But that's actually what a small world.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I call her my twin from another mother.
That is so. Oh, well, I don't know you, Allison, but if you ever hear this, that is really sweet to hear. You're both wonderful.
Oh yeah,
that's so cool that you both grew up in Colorado and then you ended up in a different state together. I want a whole like non-platonic rom-com about you two's relationship now about this.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it's always been. It used to be a lot tougher than it is nowadays. I think people are way more into the idea of like men and women just being really good friends. But like, yeah, we've been friends literally since I was like an infant. So since we knew each other like before puberty and all that, we've
Aww.
just been friends the whole time. And
Yeah.
I stayed in Colorado for a bit and then was making some movies, and then because we had made some movies in high school, and then she went off to ASU at first, and then she went to Chicago to do Second City and all of that. And then I had come out to Los Angeles a little bit before her, and then she ended up coming back out, I think 2 or 3 years later, and we still live within a couple blocks of each other.
That is like really sweet. Like not just like the Emmys, all that stuff. It's just because I know that's true. Because one of my best friend from high school, Krista Riley, is like people always thought we were dating. I'm like, nah, I don't know. It's just until my day, one of my best friends, and she comes from a family of 7, and then her sisters have become my friends. So like that's now my crew. But yeah, for my whole high school experience, like, you guys date? I'm like, no, and not. I don't know why. I don't know, we just connect on, it's just, there's this, I don't know, we're just friends. And then when, like, I teamed up with my producer, the first person I went to was my producer, Bree, and she reminds me so much of my relationship with Crystal. It's just, like, you're both beautiful people inside and out, but, like, there's some just a deep friendship that I can't explain. I don't know why. And yeah, I'm glad people are not like, boys. I mean, think of like how many movies there are from like the 80s and 90s about that. That's like every fucking Rob Reiner, Nora Ephron movie. That's like literally that's the plot of When Harry Met Sally.
Right.
As I'm saying this, like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. So we got to make a reverse. You're going to make a reverse animated stop-mo reverse When Harry Met Sally.
That sounds great.
Get to the tension. I don't love you. I don't love you. Friends? All right.
Let's just be friends.
Let's go have happy lives together. And then maybe we partner up and the four of us rent a house one day in Maine.
That sounds excellent.
That's what all movies should be. Like the anti-rom-com, like, I just like you as a person. All right, cool.
Well, the funny thing is too, like both of us really like that movie. Like we've even talked about that because there were so many moments growing up where you're watching a movie or people say the thing and you kind of have to like look at each other and be like, okay, these people think this, or like, oh, another movie saying that like the moral of the story is that they need to realize they love each other.
I was like, no, I just like having friends.
Totally, and our significant others, like we're all best friends, Yeah,
so that's usually what happens too. Like like my wife's best friend, and then her husband, and I. Like, then you become friends outside of that. Like it's the best. I just like liking people as well.
Totally, same here.
I know. I'm not always this jovial. I've always get criticized for that. Like, you're always so excited in the podcast. I'm like, well, it's because I'm happy to talk to the person I'm talking to. Like, I actually enjoy talking to people. Like that. I feel fortunate that that's something that makes the darkest of days a little bit better. Like, even when I worked retail, I would be like, no matter what happens, someone nice will come in and we'll turn my mood around. Even no matter how shitty a day is, like a nice customer can come in. Like even when things get to the lowest, I'm like, and also too, I've been doing the podcast not long enough where I get a little more say of who I'm talking to, so my excitement levels are even higher because like, yeah, well now I'm choosing.
That's
awesome. It goes for so many years. It's first you like begging people, and then there's like a switch, and then you can like do a balance of people ask to come on versus you ask and. So it's a nice thing when you get to like start to pick. You're like, okay, it's like how you value your time.
Absolutely.
I feel like we hit everything, but do we miss anything? Oh my god, I haven't looked at the clock. It's been an hour and 45 minutes. I'm so gosh.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's so much, and it's so all over the place. That's the worst and best thing about me for sure.
No, it's perfect. It's so perfect. I'm sure we'll do something like this again for sure. Whenever you get your next thing to promote, please put us on your list.
Absolutely.
If there's something else, where can people find you online?
Yeah, they can find my personal accounts. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at John Andrew Myers, and everything associated with the Mere Mortals books are all at Mere Mortals Saga. The website is meremortalssaga.com using both of the S's. And you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at Barnes & Noble. They'll order it for you if you want. And it's a big dark fantasy, and check it out if you're into those.
Yeah, that's definitely our audience crossover. People love that. Yeah. My father-in-law is in a sci-fi writers group. And so cool. I'll have to send him a copy. He's going to lose his mind. He lives downstairs, but he's going to lose it. And we're actually in the same writers club. It's actually really sweet.
Cool.
It's so wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Why, hello there, podcast friend. I'm Ash Blodgett, co-host of the podcast Let's Rewatch. Together with my co-host and Red Opera D&D campaign writer Pat Edwards, we made a short film in quarantine called Joining Call. And it's finally coming out. The film is the story of a group of people trying to get together to play D&D via a video chat. But all the usual quarantine issues get in the way, such as kids.
Daddy, is this Game of Thrones?
Bobby, what are you doing?
Daddy,
no, come on, it's bedtime.
Poor internet connections.
Thou must cast ye techno devils from thine magic picture box.
Couples at each other's throats.
I want to blow some ogres up with a fireball.
Why is your first instinct to always kill things?
And more.
Zoe, stop drinking! Oh, that reminds me, I haven't had the boss yet!
The film basically takes a snapshot of what life is like right now through the lens of nerds. So join us on our quest November 20th over on my YouTube channel, Laugh TV, for the film's premiere. You can get there by going to youtube.com/laughstashtv. And that's stash as in STASH. Till then, I'll just be over here practicing my nat 20s. Ooh, critical hit.